Vermillion City Council meeting scheduled for Monday, June 16, 2025 will come to order. Katie, will you please call roll?
Toller. Here. Lieber. Here. Price. Here. Holland. Here. Genuine. Helwig. Here. Cheeseman. Here. Murrah. Here. Mayor Cole.
Here. You please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from June 2nd, 2025 special meeting, the June 2nd, 2025 regular meeting? If so, are there any changes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve.
Motion approved by Councilor Holland. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Helwig. Any other discussion on the minutes? All those in favor to approve the minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Adoption of the agenda. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda? If so, is there a motion to adopt, or is there any motions to amend?
Approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda by Councilor Price. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Cheeseman. Any other discussion on the agenda? All those in favor to adopt the agenda as is signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed saying nay. Motion carries. Visitors, excuse me, visitors to be heard. For persons addressing the council, please come to the podium and use the microphone. Please state your name and address. For items not on the agenda, members of the public may speak under visitors to be heard for any topic not on the agenda. Remarks are limited to 5 minutes and no decision will be made at this time. On agenda items, public testimony will be taken at the beginning of each agenda item after the subject has been announced and the topic is explained by staff. Any citizen who wishes to speak may speak for one time for 5 minutes on each agenda item, and public testimony will then be closed and given to the governing body for possible action. At that point, only city council members and staff may discuss the current item unless the council member moves to allow another person to speak and there's unanimous consent from the council. Questions, however, may be directed to the staff or member of the public through the presiding officer at any time. Are there any visitors to be heard for any item not on the agenda tonight? Seeing none, moving on to the next item we have, old business. First item for old business is second reading of ordinance 1534 in reference to a budget process.
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance is one that we had discussed over the last couple of months. In summary, the state law changed in 2021, which would allow a municipality to have a longer time frame for adoption and for introduction of and adoption of a budget for the next fiscal year. We brought it to you in the second meeting in May, and you had first reading of the ordinance to advance it to a second reading on June 2nd. That day, I remember to go back and look at our home rule charter and found that we have a conflict in the language, between what our home rule charter says that the voters adopted in 2020 versus the timeline extension that would have been provided through adoption of that ordinance. So at that time, we did ask the city council to postpone it to this evening. Since then, we visited with the city attorney. The city attorney's opinion is we would have a conflict between the adoption of this ordinance and our home rule charter as it reads right now. So I think it's kind of spelled out in the memo. I think the council kind of came to that realization over the last 2 weeks as we had a chance to look at this and compare those two. We apologize for getting it this far and bringing it to your attention when we're unable to recommend adoption of it, but we do recommend that ordinance 1534 either be tabled or indefinitely or denied. One of the things that we'll have to have before the city council later date is, do we want to look at amending our home rule charter to provide language, or more specifically to take out the date specific language in our home rule charter with respect to adopting the budget to allow for the flexibility that these state laws would provide. When when the home rule charter was written, we didn't realize there was going to be a pandemic, and we didn't realize that the state laws regarding the municipal adoption of a budget would be changed, as they had never been changed. So with that, we'd recommend either denying or tabling ordinance 1534.
Thank you, John. Any visitors to be heard on this? Seeing none, council for discussion. John, let me just clarify. So home rule charter, basically, if we want to change it, what process do we have to do to change that?
So we haven't looked at it in great detail, but basically, I believe the best mode of operation would be to appoint a charter review committee. They would go through that document, recommend any changes. They would propose language changes to you, the city council, and then if you agreed with those, you'd place those forward for the voters to consider. Obviously, a logical time to do that might be the June 2026 election. Since there is, I guess I would not say that in staff's opinion, this is worthy of a special election, the cost related to that, to change one sentence.
Thanks. Just noting that, and looking a year out then before an election for voters to decide that such thing, our city attorney, difference between tabling or denying it, considering that far out?
Yeah, that far out, there's not a meaningful difference. You would be able to revise this ordinance, bring it back if it was denied more than a year later. Similarly, you could just postpone it to a date certain after when you think an election would happen, but if that election's not going to happen, if you decide not to move forward with the home rule charter, then postponing it is kind of irrelevant. So either way functions the same in terms of being able to consider it in the future.
But if we tabled it, we wouldn't have a second hearing, we'd just reinstate the second hearing or bring back the second reading, correct?
You could save yourself a reading of the ordinance if you postponed it versus denying it.
My only concern with that is probably transparency with the public. They wouldn't only get the one ordinance reading later on down the line, so. Any other questions or comments?
I do want to add that we may actually have a new council too, because there will be an election of 5 people also at the next June election. So if we table this, then it could possibly be a new council.
A new council. Well, it would be a new council no matter what, but yeah. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Or motions?
Yeah.
Councilor Holland?
If we, in the process of waiting that long, discovered other things we'd like to change on the home rule, would that negate the current proposal?
So if you were going to have an election on amendments to the home rule charter that were beyond the scope of this ordinance, you would want to adopt, well, the home rule charter amendments are separate.
Right.
So if, for example, the home rule charter were amended to just remove this budget language, and the city wouldn't necessarily have to adopt an ordinance for the budget anyway, it would still be governed by state law. So then any ordinance revisions that would need to come from the home rule charter amendment, you could address in future ordinances.
I'm not sure how you answered that.
So,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Councilor Howell, go ahead.
If I'm understanding correctly then, so we have a few options if we want to alter the home rule charter. So one option is that we remove the current language, and that means that we follow state law, which means that we would need to have an ordinance in order to make the changes. But the other option is that we change the home rule charter itself, which would mean that we wouldn't actually need this ordinance because it will already be in the home rule charter. Does that make sense, Rich?
That does make
Yeah.
sense. Do we want that in the home rule charter, though?
I would say, if I put my day job hat on, that would probably not be something to have in the home rule charter for precisely this reason. Policy is not appropriate in constitutions or in governing documents, right? That's where the process should be, and the actual policy should be made through ordinances and decisions like this.
So basically then we'd have to remove it from home rule charter by a vote of the people at the election in June of 26.
I guess if I had my day job hat on as a political scientist, I would say that, yes.
So then it brings me to my next question. So currently right now we motioned to advance it as second reading. Right now it's sitting here. So it could die for a lack of motion to approve, or 2, we could just move to deny it, and then we would vote yes to deny. Is it- Okay.
To me,
Councilor
that sounds to me like the easiest, cleanest way to do it is just move to deny and then revisit it after whoever's on the committee. And no, I'm not volunteering for that committee.
I think I just heard volunteer for that.
And then deal with it after the election of next year.
Okay.
So I will move to deny the second reading of this.
So there's a motion to deny ordinance 1534 by Counselor Murray and a second by Counselor Price. Is there any other discussion on this item? So there is still a roll call vote, so we'll go to the machine. So this, again, a yes is to vote for denying it, a no is to not deny it. So there's 9 yeas, 0 nays. Motion is denied.
Can I just say one thing?
Absolutely.
Just want to say thanks to the staff for all their hard work in preparing this thing that we just denied. And that was going to save them a whole lot of time and effort in the future. So now we can look forward to more work for you. So sorry, guys, but thank you very much.
So I think on I think on that note, we can anticipate budget meetings in August.
Yes.
Okay. Counselor Holland.
Mr. Prescott, do we have an automatic review of the home rule, or should we request that now to get to see the change?
So, no, we don't have an automatic renewal at this point. There was, I went from a provision when it would be, but you could do it at other times. So, we're at 5 years since the fall of 2020 when it was adopted, if I remember right. We need to, it's a good time to take a look at it after 5 years. There might be other things that we need to
Do we need
tweak.
to request that, or just let them know?
Let us take a look at it. If we do, then we will bring it back to a future council meeting to have you officially give us that direction.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's no more old business, so we're moving on to new business. First thing up, we have an amendment extending request on the September 30th, 2025 end date for Masaba sales tax rebate. John.
Thank you. This is kind of a follow-up. There was a briefing at the noon meeting where Masaba was there and kind of explained a little bit about it. But for the general public to kind of help, in April 2024, at that first city council meeting that month, the city, the VCDC, and Masaba entered into what we use the term sales tax rebate agreement. Technically, it's a development program reinvestment agreement, but the slang term is sales tax rebate agreement. Nonetheless, we did enter into that agreement, the three parties, to rebate up to $250,000 of sales tax. The project proposal before you at that time was a $15 million building, and that is the building that Masaba is building on the north side of 317th Street. It's addressed as 1400 317th Street. There was also $50 million of equipment that would be located in the new building that is under construction or nearing the end of construction. So amongst those two things, 2%. The 2% local sales tax would be rebated up to $250,000 per the terms of the agreement. That agreement, like all these agreements, has an expiration date or an end date. And the agreement includes a June 30th, 2025 as the end date to that agreement. So invoices dated after that date would not be accepted for this reimbursement program, just like they had to be between April 1st of 2024, they couldn't be before that date. So the window is April 1st, 2024 to June 30th of 2025. There's also another part to the agreement that a 1 acre lot would be platted and provided to the city. That would be, along 317th Street, the lot needed to be at least 50 feet wide, east to west along 317th Street. That is for a future lift station that would serve the northeastern portion of our community, to provide some land for that. And through the terms and negotiations there, that was something that was beneficial to our community, and Masaba was willing to do that, so that was entered into as part of that agreement. So we've gone through kind of a little bit what the agreement was. We recently received a request to extend that agreement to not end on June 30th of this year, but to extend it until September 30th of this year. We have not to date paid out any sales tax rebates. Nothing has been submitted for this, but as they visit with you at noon, they're nearing some completion on the building and also on the equipment there. So that's why they're requesting an extension. I think one item also maybe to clarify is the lot. That didn't come up at the noon meeting. It's probably one of those things we should have brought up. But with all that, that's kind of the background that sets it up for you to have a discussion about it. We do have a representative from the VCDC as well as Masaba here to help answer questions. We do recommend approval of the extension until September 30th of this year.
Thank you, John. Are there any visitors to be heard on this topic? Seeing none, move to council for discussion. As John noted, we do have a representative here from Masaba to speak for any questions you may have. Is there any comments or questions from the council? Well, go ahead, Rich.
I was just going to say, I think we've been well informed of the need for this, and I vote to approve, or move to approve, excuse me.
Okay. There's a motion to approve on the table. Before we have more discussion, is there a second on that? Second by Counselor Genowine. Further discussion, and I do have a few things I'll mention, so if anybody else has anything else firsthand. Okay. One of the questions I have, and it's probably for the representative, Kevin, if you want to come on up. And I know we had talked for the noon meeting. The unfortunate part is that noon presentation, the public aren't always able to see, and of course, it's not live on TV like we are today. Can you just kind of explain some of the situation, the background of the justified reason for asking for a extension in the contract?
Okay, yes, just to reintroduce myself, my name's Kevin Paraxlis, I'm the CFO at Mesaba. We've had extensive delays in the delivery and installation of our equipment. Some equipment, the delivery was delayed by 12 weeks, and then the installation has been delayed another 4 weeks. There's a lot of competing demands for these installers. And then we had some equipment that was stuck in port for several weeks, and just the final pieces arrived 2 weeks ago.
When was that equipment ordered?
Early last year. Long lead time.
Early last year? So just to clarify, Katie, and I know we had some questions on receipts before. With the receipts, is it when they're ordered or when they're paid for those? It's when they're paid for. Okay, thank you. Kevin, reference to the lot, obviously that, the land's there, the lot's there. One of the big things we'd have to do is plot out that acre. Has there been any, because I know nothing's been brought forward to planning and zoning on our end, so I know nothing's been plotted or anything like that. Is there any justified reason for the delay in that?
No, I don't believe there's a reason to delay that.
John, is there anything in the contract, I'm not seeing anything, is there anything in the contract that says what any ramifications there are if anything is delayed? Consequences or by city or Mesaba?
No, we just, as I'm thinking about the agreement here, I don't think there's any, I'll say penalties or ramifications. There's just, the dates of the respective quarters are noted, and then it says the city has 60 days from the end of that quarter to make that payment, to process the payment. But no, there were no penalties that I can recall in the agreement.
Okay. Hold on one second, I got a few more questions. In reference, what's that? Oh, go ahead.
I have this open right now. It says prior to receiving the final payment, that would have to happen.
The lot would have to happen before receiving the final payment, before they would receive the final payment.
That's what it indicates
Okay.
on number 9, yes.
Okay, thank you for that, Counselor Genowine. The sales tax rebate has to do with equipment and building materials, so what we're waiting on is just the equipment. And I know we talked at the noon meeting, have any receipts been submitted for building material?
No.
No,
There will
but the
be.
building is done, correct?
Yes, the building's done.
Okay. How much?
They're still doing office stuff,
Sure.
plumbing, lighting.
Yep, furniture, whatever it may
Yeah.
be, gotcha, okay. And from the memo, I think it says roughly 15 million for the building, 15 million for the equipment, is that accurate?
Yes, the equipment's been a little bit more expensive. We expanded the scope and we brought in some CNC equipment for the panel shop that wasn't part of the original scope.
So is the equipment, is it multiple items or just one item?
Multiple items.
Multiple items, okay, gotcha. I guess my concern for the council is, and anybody else chime in working with contracts are there for a reason. I don't normally have any issue with extending contracts for justified reasons. And some of it I do believe would probably be justified where it says the equipment, but on the other side point, when we entered into this agreement, we had the understanding of building material and equipment. So I guess I'm having a little bit of trouble when building material was there and available, but no receipts whatsoever been turned in for it. We're sitting here 14 months later and there's not been anything submitted yet. And then on top of that, part of the contractual agreement was also this 1 acre plot of land, and nothing has been advanced towards that at all whatsoever either to fulfill the contract. I guess that is my biggest issue. If there's some good faith effort that beforehand on anything in the contract, I'd have a little bit more leniency on that. But I mean, in dealing with contracts, if there's been no good faith effort towards anything in the contract, why are we extending it? In my opinion, it seems some of it's not as much planning set forward in terms of fulfilling that contract. That's my 2 cents. I'm open for discussion. Councilor Genowine?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but some of the purchases that are coming are bigger, like bulk items, right? Or like small, bigger cost items, right? Versus the building, which is probably multiple different receipts.
Exactly. So, yeah, so there's, of the major equipment that we haven't paid the final invoices, there's like 5 pieces of equipment, and some of it's like a laser and the handling equipment with the laser, but that's one big item. Each item, we're talking about $2.5 million each. So it's all back-end loaded on the sales tax. So although that $10 million worth of equipment that I'm talking about, we've made about $7 million of deposits. None of them included sales tax. When the item is, completely installed, been tested, and has been started up, then we'll get the final invoice that will include all the sales tax. And that 10 million right there represents 200,000 of sales tax that will be paid likely in July.
Okay, so I guess, I don't know for sure, but I would assume that would ultimately create less work for staff to have fewer receipts to go through versus, I understand what you're saying, I do, but I also know that, it is work for our staff if there are multiple receipts being submitted at once. So if this ultimately creates less work and like consolidates the process, I can appreciate the delays that happened with all of the port issues and things like that. So I guess that's why I seconded the motion to advance this, or to approve this. I don't know.
The one thing I'm going to challenge on the less work for the staff would be no sales tax rebate whatsoever then.
Well, that is absolutely true. We do, however, also have a vested interest in receiving that plot of land, so.
I'm just taking that
I'm not saying
argument.
that it's worth the value of the two are equal, but we have a little take in this as well, a little take.
But, and I guess my point to it is for $250,000 of taxpayer money, I would think that the entity would do some due diligence in making sure some receipts are in, especially if we're doing it on a quarterly basis. I get it of ease and work, but, again, $250,000 of city taxpayer money, I don't have any issue with a little bit of work into that. Councilor Cheeseman?
What would the ramifications be if this was denied?
It's been a very expensive project. I think at this point, or when the project will be finalized, Jared and Masaba will have invested $12 million of his own capital into this. And so this just alleviates some of the cash flow that has been getting pretty tight right now as the project gets finalized. On the building material, most of that has been through contractors who've charged us excise tax. So where they're getting the material, how they're handling the sales tax, I'm not aware of that. That's, I'm paying them for that excise tax. So I'm not seeing those invoices on the sales tax side. So I have no visibility of that. We did purchase some our own material. It was steel and paint to do the ceiling beams. And I waited until we had completed all that, which was done over several months. And then we had to do a use tax, which was done in the first quarter. So yes, I probably could have, it was either the first quarter or the second quarter, but that was done very recently, that I had the accumulation of all these purchase orders to get the total of the steel that we purchased and the total of the paint, to then turn around and do I could get you the exact date. It might have been March or April that we made that use tax payment.
Sure, but the sales tax still, contractors still charge you a use tax, but you'd still get the sales tax, much like we have with other building projects in the city. That cost gets started with, obviously, the contractor pays it, then it goes down to the consumer, you, or the Masaba, I should say. And that's where that would come into. It's no different than any other rebate program that we've done, whether it be, ones in the past. I think there was one, I think Masaba had done one prior in the past, Polaris, the university, the school district, things like that. They all have done one before, so that's nothing different for us. I guess in reference to Councilor Cheeseman's, I get part of the equipment, which is why I'm not 100% opposed. I think there's an easy compromise. Maybe some of the sales tax rebate can be extended, but I personally find it hard to extend all of it, considering we've had 14 months with no receipts whatsoever. And the 1 acre of lot, there's been no progress on that whatsoever. And the contract doesn't have any penalty other than they don't get anything until that acre lot is passed on. But, we have contracts for a reason. If I enter into a contract with anything and I don't follow my end of the contract, I'm gonna have a ramification on our side. And I think, as a business person, I think Masaba and Jared would have the same thing in retrospect the other way around. That's my 2 cents. Councilor Holland?
John, I totally disagree with you. I think the fact that they've had small stuff and they haven't done it, when they do submit their stuff, they're gonna use most of their funds they were offering. So I see nothing wrong with the fact that they chose not to do anything. They know their deadlines and they know what it is, and they're not asking for an extension because they failed to do it. It's because your equipment isn't there. So I don't think that's an issue.
Councilor Labor?
Well, I just think this is a lesson learned. We didn't put anything in the contract about what if. So, if we'd had a penalty clause in there, then it'd be very easily to enforce a penalty clause. But, it may be a little bit different, but we did extend USD earlier this year. And maybe there's different circumstances, but I understand the precedent setting here, but I think this is why going forward, if there's another one of these comes forward, we put a penalty clause on there that if it goes after a certain date, then it gets reduced by a certain amount or whatever. So anyhow, I'd be in favor of extending it, only because we've done it once before, and we didn't have anything written in there that really can hold their feet to the fire, other than they gotta turn it in, and they gotta give us the land. So.
Sure. I guess my only comment to that one is absolutely correct. USD was different. I believe they're 10 or 11 months behind because of construction project delays. And if that was the case, and then we didn't have a building right now and they had delays, my opinion would be much different at this point in time. There's currently a motion on the table. Is there any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion to approve the extension signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by saying nay? Nay. Nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item. Building Inspection Services Agreement for the City of Elk Point.
Good evening. I'm Alex Goodburn, the building official for the City of Vermillion. Late spring, the City of Elk Point reached out to us about potentially helping them out with some of their building permits and inspections. They have an older gentleman that they do a contract with that is really dialing back the level of work that he wants to do. So we had that discussion with them, and they asked if we thought that we could manage that, and I asked kind of what that workload would look like. Obviously, Vermillion keeps me busy with building and code enforcement and everything else. So they were looking at about 5 to 15 permits a year. And so we modeled the agreement based on the joint jurisdiction agreement when it came to the financial structure, and then with the additive that Vermillion will take the priority over Elk Point, and that we had the ability to say, hey, this is either too much and give them a 30-day notice to walk back from it, or if it's a permit that we disagree with or a project that we disagree with, to have that ability to say, we don't want to part in that. I don't believe that this is going to add too much of a workload to where that we can't have an agreement and make this work. And we have an agreement within the joint jurisdiction that, in my opinion, works from my perspective, with doing the inspections and then sending that information over to NOAA, and then staying on top of that with Katie when it comes to the billing piece. So my recommendation would be that we would move forward with this and help Elk Point out.
Thank you, Alex. Is there any business to be heard on this? Seeing none, council for discussion. Councilor Price?
Since I don't have them in front of me, how do these fees compare to Vermillion's fees? Are they the same, these Elk Point fees? The 65, 350, 125. Are those the same as Vermillion's?
When our fees get on that, over that $100,000 mark, that's when we start to add, I think it's $465 per $1,000. Once we're over that $2,000 mark to $100,000 mark. So it would be a little bit more for the amount of work. The workload that I would have going into that permit, because they're gonna be reviewing it first, then sending it over with their feedback for me to review it and say, yes, I think everything is here. And then it would just be more, the time is the inspections is what we're looking at. So it's gonna be a footing, framing, and final. And those inspections are also based off of, so we have the permit fee, and then we have my hourly rate that would be billed back. So it would, if you looked at the time constraint, it's actually would be more. They would be paying a little bit more.
So do you feel like it's worth it? Like, is it worth your time for what we're getting out of it?
I think so. I am a pretty big supporter of consolidations and agreements especially at the more local levels, because I think it's manageable. I came from a major city that was on a 2080 agreement, and they made it work with a fire department. And so I can see that, yes, it would be worth the time. I mean, we're not going to be $65 for a permit. We're not going to be filling up the coffers with that. But I think that the amount of time that I'm going to put into this would be worth it. And with the agreement, we put that in there that said, hey, if it's not worth it on our end, we can walk away with the 30-day notice.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Collier, you have something?
Mine was about the same, kind of the same line of questioning. So on top of these fees, which I'm all about helping your neighbor out too, you're gonna have like an hourly rate you'll charge and then mileage, I assume, to get to the project site?
Correct.
I think I'm okay with that.
Councilor Hellwig?
I had asked Mr. Prescott about some Oxford commas that were missing in the agreement. And I was just wondering if we had looked into a possibility of adding those and, a typo in there as well.
Yeah, yes, we can do that. I visited with the Elk Point City Administrator today, and they've approved the agreement in concept, so we have the ability to change the wording, and I think adding the appropriate commas in there will not be an issue. The document before you is what Elk Point sent up to us, so, after negotiations and discussions.
Councilor Holland?
There's no issues, I'm asking, I'm not saying, there's no issues because it's Union County.
Say again?
There's no issues because it's a different county, it's not Clay, but Union County, does that bring anything into it?
No, they're actually on the same international code as we are, and that's what governs.
Same year?
Yep, same year and everything, so that I don't have to jump back and forth between codes.
I didn't think so, but thank you.
Counselor Cheeseman?
So the only thing that I was thinking about is like a cost-benefit analysis, right? Is it cost-effective to do something like this? You're spread pretty thin. I think you opened your statement saying that. Are you okay with this?
I'm okay with it. I've never shied away from the work, and I mean, if there's work to be done, I'm paid on a salary, so I stay late and get it done, and it's time management, and I've been doing that for 20-some years, so I think it'll be manageable.
Famous last words, paid on a salary.
Other duties as assigned, ...
I'm just looking on this contract. Is there a term limit on this, or is this just until one entity pulls out? Is that? That's what I'm trying to see here.
Quarterly was just the
It
bill.
says termination of 30 days written notice, so basically it'd be indefinite until one of the parties give a 30-day notice to pull out from it. Is there any issue with that at all?
I think that as time goes, that discussion would have to happen with their city manager of at what point do you make this a position, or at what point do you send this out for bid for a contract, or?
Because at this point, they have no inspector, correct?
No, he's gonna be, I don't know if he's done now, or if he has a timeline, but he's significantly reduced what he is willing to do. He's not doing their permit plan reviews or any of that. That's all on the city now.
The only reason I ask is I go to Elk Point often enough and I see there's a lot of construction going on there, especially new residential homes. And I just want to make sure, like Counselor Cheeseman had expressed, I want to make sure that we're not spreading ourselves too thin here on that is my only concern. And I guess this is where we entrust you and Mr. Prescott to make that assessment. If it starts hindering Vermillion at all, we need to review that and I think reflect on when that time comes.
Yeah.
Unless they're willing to pay us for another staff member, but I don't think they're willing to do that.
No, and I know that both myself and John have been upfront with them that, you know, Vermillion is my job and this cannot take away from that. And, you know, this is the time to build right now, so it'll give us a pretty good idea of, you know, is it 5 to 15 or was that a low ball number?
Sure. Is there any other discussion or is there any motions to take away the rest of Alex's free time?
Move approval to help out our friends in Oak Point.
A motion to approve by Counselor Price. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Hellig. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed saying nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Alex. Next time we have a street closure request for Thursday on the plots.
The VCDC requested to close Radigan Potts half block of Market Street south of West Main Street, half block of Prospect Street north of West Main Street, and West Main Street as it abuts the Potts east to the south bump out on the corner of Prospect Street and West Main for the Thursday on the Plots events in July and August. Those dates were July 10th, the 17th, 24th, 31st, and then August 7th, 14th, and 21st from 4 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. The event setup will take place at 4 p.m. and then cleanup will be done by 8:30, and the actual event will be held from 5:30 to 8:30. August 7th is the date of the Clay County Fair, but it's reserved as a backup in case the BCDC doesn't have their event there, and they can still hold Thursday on the Plots then. The street police, fire, and EMS departments have all been notified, and they don't have any concerns. And each vendor will be in charge of their section after the event and cleaning up from it. And Vermillion Next Young Professionals have a designated cleanup crew to help in different areas and will be responsible for removing the barricades at the conclusion of the event and having everything off of the streets by 8:30. VCDC will notify all of the surrounding businesses and provide a map to them of where will be closed. They said there's a limited number of businesses that will be affected, but they'll let them know anyways. And for that, the administration recommends that the City Council approve the request to close Radigan Potts, half block of Market Street, south of West Main Street, half block of Prospect Street, north of West Main Street, and West Main Street, as it abuts the Potts east to the south bump out on the corner of Prospect Street and West Main, on Thursday, July 10th, 17th, 24th, 31st, and August 7th, 14th, and 21st, from 4 p.m. to 8:30 p.m.
Thank you, Maddie. Is there any business to be heard on this? Seeing none, move to council for discussion. Any motions? Motion approved by Councilor Howell. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Holland. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, saying nay. Motion carries. Next item, we have a street closure request for VCDC's Oktoberfest event on September 26th. Alex.
So the VCDC has requested the temporary closure of West Main Street from 19 Brewing Company to Court Street, Market Street from Main Street south to the alley before Kidder Street, and Prospect Street from Main Street north to the Core Trust Bank entrance for the Oktoberfest community event. It's going to be hosted by the VCDC and the Oktoberfest board. In discussion with the applicant, we did notice that the streets listed were incorrect, but they are now shown correctly. And they are correct on the diagram. The street closure request was reviewed by the street, fire, EMS, and the police department. They had no concerns at this time. The applicant did state that the Oktoberfest committee has enlisted volunteers to help clean up after the event. Members of Oktoberfest committee will email, call, or physically visit affected businesses no less than 2 weeks before the event. Administration recommends the temporary closure of these streets for Friday, September 26th from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. for VCDC's Oktoberfest event.
Thank you, Alex. Any visitors to be heard? Seeing none, council for discussion. Is there a motion? Motion approved by Councilor Genoway. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Lieber. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, saying nay. Motion carries. Next item, we have a street close request for August 7th through the 11th for the Clay County Fair.
The same length of street closure and duration is the same as last year, and this is where the barricade will be on the high street. The completed street closure request application is attached. The street police and fire EMS department have been notified of the street closure request, and they have no concern. The applicants will clean the area and open the street once the stage is put away on Sunday morning. The Clay County Fair Board has notified public transit of the fair date. No other businesses or organizations should be impacted by this closure, and there is no financial consideration. Administration recommends that the City Council approve the request to close High Street from West Cherry Street south to the public transit driveway from 7 a.m. Thursday, August 7, 2025, until Sunday, August 10, 2025 at 12 p.m. for the Clay County Fair.
Thank you, Portia. Is there any visitors to be heard on this? Seeing none, move to council for questions. Just want to double check on the memo here. It says August 10th. On the agenda, it says August 11th. And then on the application, it says August 10th. I just want to clarify, it is August 10th? Is the end date?
Yes, that is the end
Okay. I just noticed on the agenda, it said the 11th, so I just want to double check that. Okay. Any other questions or motions?
Second.
Motion approved by Councilor Genoway and second by Councilor Price. Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Councilor Murray, you're going to be riding the bull for that, right? At the fair? You're riding the bull? That's what I had in my notes.
I saw his name on the list.
Yeah, I thought your name was on that list. Next item, we have an automatic aid agreement for structure fires. Chief Callahan.
So for many years, the Vermillion Fire and EMS Department has used mutual aid for large structure fires that require an extensive amount of time and manpower. After researching the adequate staffing numbers for fires and firefighter health and safety, administrators have determined that requesting automatic aid for structure fires is appropriate anytime a structure fire occurs. After several meetings with Gayville, Elk Point, and Wakanda, the agencies have agreed to provide automatic aid to each other in the event of a confirmed structure fire. These agencies will automatically be dispatched to assist Vermillion with certain pre-designated equipment depending on the location of the structure fire. In turn, Vermillion will provide these agencies in the event they have a confirmed structure fire with equipment and manpower. Only listed equipment in the agreements will be sent initially to ensure that the agencies are not left without coverage in their own districts while assisting each other. Initially, these agreements will remain in effect for a 2-year period. After that time, they'll automatically renew on the anniversary date for 1-year periods unless an agency opts to cancel the agreement. Because each agency is responsible for their own equipment, firefighters, and insurance, the City of Vermillion bears no upfront financial cost. Administration recommends approval of the agreements and authorization of the mayor to sign each agreement.
Thank you, Chief Callahan. Is there any business to be heard on this? Council for discussion? Councilor Cheeseman?
Question, now, what does automatic mean? Is it, you're bypassing the red tape?
I don't have to ask for it. Automatically, if somebody calls, says my house is on fire, they dispatch Vermillion, they dispatch Gayville, and they dispatch Elk Point for the City of Vermillion. So automatically, we'll be getting an engine out of Gayville and an engine out of Elk Point with four people roughly on each and a chief from Gayville. So that'll give us an extra 9 people right off the bat instead of us arriving on the scene, determining, oh, yep, we need help. And then we're 10 to 15 minutes later, we have help coming right away.
It's probably pretty important in case of a fire, huh?
Once you've been inside 20 to 25 minutes and you're working and you come out and there's 10 people standing in the front yard ready to go in and you can actually kneel down and take a break for 5 minutes, it's a big relief seeing those people standing out there rather than coming out, nobody's there, you change your air tank and you go back in because help's still 10 minutes away.
Councilor Holland?
All structure fires, what does that rule out?
Well, so I mean, it's structure fires, so garages, it'd be garage fires, house fires, barn fires out in the county, so.
Any structure?
Yeah, so any structure, yeah, so I mean, car accidents, brush fires, things like that, we're not gonna get automatic aid on those. We're gonna take care of those initially on our own and then request help if we need help once we get there.
Thank you.
Any other questions or motions? Motion approved by Councilor Price. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Murrah. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, saying nay. Motion carries. Next item we have is the Human Relations Commission appointment. In July of 2018, the Human Relations Commission became effective for the City of Vermillion. Currently, there are 7 members of the commission made up of city residents. 6 members of the commission are to be residents of the city, and 1 member is to be a student member. And the student member term is for 1 year, with all the other terms being 3 years. Recently, a commission member had stepped down due to relocating from Vermillion to another area and is not able to complete her term. Over the last few weeks, we did have openings been advertised for the city at city council meetings, on the city's website and social media. We did have 2 individuals submit expressive interest forms to serve on the Human Relations Commission, and at this time, I am asking to appoint Erin Burrow of the Human Relations Commission. In my discussion with Erin's, I believe that she has a good understanding of the concept and the role of Human Relations Commission as she's done her homework on that, and also has some drive to bring more awareness to availability of our citizens in the community. Erin has also sat on other community boards and is familiar with how meetings are ran and conducted, and can help provide some guidance and leadership on that aspect as well for the commission. Erin believes that our community can be strong when others have curiosity and bring difficult conversations to the table. So at this point, it is my intent to appoint Erin Burrow to the Human Relations Commission. Are there any visitors to be heard on that? Council for discussion reference that appointment. Motion approved by Counselor Helwig. Is there a second? Second by Counselor Murrah. Any other discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by saying nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is for appointment to the Vermillion Housing Authority Commission. By state statute, the city council is charged with appointing members for the Vermillion Housing Authority. And the Vermillion Housing Authority, per statute, shall consist of 5 commissioners reside in the community. There is also one commission that is also part of the Vermillion Housing Program. There is currently one term that is up to expire here in June. That term is of Rodney Oberly for that position. The city did advertise for this position, again, in the city website, also on social media, and through city council meetings. The Housing Authority is not compensated at all for their service, but the city does include $8,500 for the Housing Authority Board to help with administrative costs and annual audits. There's also been increased audits with that. With that being said, my intent and recommendation to the council is to reappoint Rodney Oberly to the Vermillion Housing Authority Board. In speaking with Rodney, he has been a good board member. He's been working with the board director, Dave, on trying to help with more funding ideas and options. I do know that they're looking at ribs, rods, and rock and roll to help with some funding options, to also include the dunk tank, to where I was asked to be in the dunk tank. So I also asked the rest of the city council members to join me, not at the same time, of course, in the dunk tank to help with that, or maybe a city manager. But they're looking at some other ideas to help funding with that housing authority, and Rod's kind of spearheading that. So I definitely enjoy his outside the box thinking in that, and my recommendation is to reappoint him for that committee. With that being said, are there any visitors to be heard on this? Any discussion by council? Motion to approve going the dunk tank? Okay, motion approved by Counselor Toller. Is there a second? Second by Counselor Lieber. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by saying nay. Motion carries. Next item we have is first reading of ordinance 1535. This is in reference to application for tattoo artists and/or body piercing licenses.
Thank you. At the May 19th meeting, I had brought this to the council to consider taking away the FBI and DCI background checks for tattoo licenses. A little bit of background on this is state statute allows cities to regulate the practice of tattooing and body piercing. In 1995, we did adopt an ordinance, and that was amended in 2010 to add the FBI and DCI background checks. In 2024, an applicant came forward with concerns about the restrictiveness of the background checks for this type of application. The revised ordinance removes the requirements for the application to do DCI and FBI backgrounds, but I did add a section requiring them to show us a clerk of court's records for up to 7 years. This is similar to our peddler's licenses. The wording is actually copied directly from that and just changed a little bit to apply to tattooing. This will help myself realize or determine who a suitable applicant is, along with there is a denial portion in the ordinance itself that isn't a part of this one, but the denial is already in there. So if I were to deny it, then it would come to you guys for reconsideration. There is no cost to this besides publication of the first reading, and then administration recommends moving this to the second reading.
Thank you, Katie. Any visitors to be heard on this? Seeing none, council for discussion or motions? Motion to advance by Councilor Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Price. Any other discussion on this ordinance? All those in favor to advance to the second reading signify by saying aye. Opposed, saying nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Katie. Next item, we have a joint powers amendment number 10 for the purchase of a dozer.
Thank you. Back in 2024, we decided that we needed a new dozer, so we put that in our 25 budget. In order to purchase this dozer, we needed to get grant loan funding, so we applied for a Danner application for that. The joint powers is a collective agreement with Yankton, the city of Vermillion, Yankton, Clay County, and Yankton counties, and it has been established since 1994. The purpose of this agreement is to establish a joint operation, and this agreement is required by Danner to allow us to stay in business together until this debt is paid off. Administration recommends approval of the 10th Amendment to the Joint Powers Agreement.
Thank you, Katie. Is there any business to be heard on this? Seeing none, move to council for discussion. Any motions? Motion to approve by Councilor Genowine, second by Councilor Lieber. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, saying nay. Motion carries. Next would be a resolution to authorize the purchase of Joint Powers landfill bulldozer.
Thank you. As Katie just mentioned, the city council considered the replacement of the 2017 bulldozer at the landfill back in the 2024 budget sessions. At that time, the council did give permission to the city staff to proceed with looking into which vehicle to purchase. Based on that, administration would like to take the advantage of a Sourcewell bid that was awarded to Caterpillar. Butler Cat from Sioux Falls will be honoring the Sourcewell bid price awarded to Caterpillar. The total bid for a new Caterpillar D67 track bulldozer meeting our specification is $639,194.01. Additionally, the city's current bulldozer will be traded in for a value of $127,850. The net trade-in value would bring the cost of the equipment down to $511,344.01. The 2025 Joint Powers Landfill Fund includes a budget of $700,000 for the purchase of the track dozer. An earlier agenda item, as you just heard, consider the Diener grant to fund the purchase of the dozer. Administration recommends approving the resolution authorizing the purchase of the new Caterpillar D67 track bulldozer for $511,344.01 from Butler Cat from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, which includes a trade-in of the city's 2017 Caterpillar D67-T4 track dozer.
Thank you, Jose. Is there any business to be heard on this? Seeing none, council for discussion. Or motions?
Move approve.
Motion approved by Councilor Murr. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilor Holland. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, saying nay. Motion carries. Next item we have is the city manager's report.
Thank you. Just a couple of meetings before the city council next meets on Monday, July 7th. The library board meets this Wednesday, June 18th, and that's at 5:30 p.m. in the Kozak room at the library. And then the quarterly joint powers board, they meet to oversee our solid waste and recycling operation that we just heard a little bit about, the landfill dozer. Their next quarterly meeting is Thursday, June 26th. That one is here in Vermillion, and that's at 5:30 p.m. in the Powell conference room. Just a reminder, the city offices will be closed twice before you meet again, once this Thursday, June 19th for the Juneteenth holiday, and then on Friday, July 4th for the Independence Day holiday. A reminder that East Main Street from Plum Street to Walker Street is going to be closed on June 26th, 27th, 28th, and 29th from 6:45 p.m. to 9 p.m. for the Shakespeare Festival. Just kind of following with our commission openings, we do have 5 terms that are expiring on our Planning and Zoning Commission. Those terms expire this month, and so you'll have appointments at your next meeting on July 7th. We do ask interested individuals to complete an expression of interest form, and those will be accepted through Thursday, June 26th, and we anticipate, like I noted, that you'll have appointments at your next meeting on July 7th. And just a reminder to our surplus property committee members that we're hopefully going to have a short meeting right after this with regard to some of our lot sale prices and establishing those.
John, do you want to give a brief update on the council, what we found out today with Tom Street Lift Station?
Oh, sure. So the legacy project, I call it for Shane, is the Tom Street Lift Station, and that was to have been completed last year. The tank is now in the ground. They filled a lot of it, the dirt in there. They've secured it with an amendment to the original proposal, using some rebar and kind of a concrete lip around there. So that is largely completed now. We have the wiring, Youth Electric's coming to be doing that. So hopefully, I think we're looking at July getting that project finally wrapped up. So it's been a long time coming, but I think it's ready to go, which is great as the development opens up for housing and the law enforcement center opens, that we will have that new lift station completed.
Thank you, John. Next item are invoices payables. Has everyone had a chance to review the bills? If not, give you a second here to review those. Any questions or motions, I'll entertain. Oh,
Not yet. I won't move yet.
Counselor Genowine?
I did notice that one of our council members is listed here under, on line 64.
64.
Sorry about that. We should have listed that up above. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I
Oh,
missed that.
yep. Thank you for that catch, Counselor Genowine.
Approval of item 64.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve item 64 by Counselor Price and a second by Counselor Genowine. I assume Counselor Helwig will abstain. All those in favor of item number 64 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by saying nay. Item 64 is approved.
My kid went to the tutor club instead of any other activity. That's what happened. We could pay the remainder of our bill.
Motion to pay the remainder of the bills by Counselor Helwig and a second by Counselor Price. Any other discussion on the bills? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by saying nay. Motion carries. That is all we have for today, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn by Counselor Murn, a second by Counselor Lieber. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by saying nay. Meeting adjourned.